Hey everybody, Tim and Julie here for Batman Beyond, Season 1, Part 2, 4 episodes, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know, we'll start from the top. I don't know where I was going with that. The first episode, I'm super excited. Even made you watch it twice. Meltdown, the return of Mr. Freeze. I believe this is the first episode where we get to see Batman's camouflage, where he can go invisible.
Right.
I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time. A couple guest actors. Linda Hamilton, who I absolutely adore, plays Dr. Stephanie Lake. Linda Hamilton's probably most famous for being like the Terminator movies, stuff like that. And then Michael Ansara, I think is how you say his name. I suck at saying names. Michael Ansara, I think, is the voice of Mr. Freeze, who played Mr. Freeze in the new Batman Adventures, in Batman Sub-Zero, the animated adventures. He's been Mr. Freeze for a while. I actually know like Michael Ansara like all the way back to like Star Trek, because he was one of the very first Klingons that we ever see in Star Trek. So I will let you go. I won't hog the spotlight because I could talk about this episode for a while. Go for it.
Yeah, I liked it. They're there to help him, and it helped him for a while, but Batman was just, that ain't gonna happen. Even Bruce Wayne said, that ain't gonna happen. And yeah, he was caring for a while, and then he just got back to his normal stuff. But,
which is something, so I think we talked about it in other Batman videos, where before 1992, and there go the dogs, before 1992, Mr. Freeze was just a generic villain. And they redefined him in the animated series, where he was like this broken-hearted, he just wanted to help his wife.
Right.
And so that Mr. Freeze continues even into the comics at this point. And so it's kind of interesting to see that the last time we saw him in the new adventures, he was just a head. Like, if you remember, because he had like the spider legs going on. So they kept that continuity. The whole premise makes no fucking sense to me, because they were like, what if we clone a body and then there'll be a new body? Okay, so if your first body is diseased or broken, the second body will be also. So we get that. This is the first time where Powers actually, because we know he's like nuclear or whatever, actually has his new name, where he is now Blight. The thing that got me the most for this episode, that is the most heartbreaking, is Mr. Freeze's last words, where I'm going to paraphrase it, I don't remember exactly, but like the building's falling down, and Mr. Freeze has always been like this anti-hero. Like, he's not necessarily evil, but I mean, he's not a good guy either. And like Batman's trying to save everybody, and he's like, come on! And Mr. Freeze is like, just leave me. Nobody's going to care. And you're like, wow. Like, he's literally like, just, no, I'm done.
I'm
like, I cured my wife and she divorced me. I've been a floating head for 50 years. Fuck it. I'm done. And you're like, wow. Like, this whole, I'm going to cry. Like, this whole show is so depressing. It's so sad. The perfect segue to the next episode, Heroes. It's so sad. Even this episode. So this episode actually got Marvel or DC in trouble from Marvel, because this episode is about 3 superheroes, Freon, Magma, and 2D Man. Freon is like a transparent, icy woman. Magma is basically Clayface with fire. And 2D Man is a super stretchy guy. It's literally like the Fantastic Four.
Right.
And so after this, I have some of them. Like, Batman Beyond continued on into the comics. And they were going to bring back the Terrific Trio into the comics. And Marvel basically called up DC and was like, if you do this, we're going to sue you. Boom, they dropped it. So, it is what it is. So what did you think of the Terrific Trio?
They were good. I like the stretchy guy.
The 2D Man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
I really enjoyed this. Like, I get that it's a play on the Fantastic Four, But at the same time, I thought they did a great job. Like, I would love to have seen them again. Episode 7, we see a new character, Shriek. Spoiler alert, we will see Shriek quite a bit throughout the series. At this point, we get to see a lot of, like, classic. We see Crime Alley, where Bruce Wayne's parents were shot, with the little Joker, the wanted poster, kind of hidden in the background. Wasn't really that hidden. The whole premise of, like, sound controlling everything was interesting. And then, like, the big spoiler at the end, where Bruce is like, I knew it wasn't real. And Terry's like, well, how did you know? And he's like, they kept calling me Bruce, and that's not what I call myself. And it's like, oh, he calls himself Batman. Yeah. Which there's a famous comic where it's Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman meeting for the first time, and they're all holding the lasso of truth. So they all have to say the truth. And they're like, okay, everybody introduce yourself. And he's like, I'm Kal-El from Krypton. I'm Diana from Themyscira. And it's like, I am Batman. And they're like, what? And he's holding the lasso. So he's telling the truth. So that is how Bruce Wayne perceives himself. Bruce Wayne is the fake character. He's the one that's not real. Batman is the real character. So I like that. I thought it was great.
It was good.
So overall, like I said, we'll see Shriek again. But what did you think of Shriek as a character and all of that?
It was okay. I don't know. It was kind of hard to, because Bruce was, bringing back all the memories and all that stuff, and and him, and I don't know. It was a good episode. It was where you wanted to cry in the first one. This one, but it was sad in the.
And we'll wrap it up with the last episode, Dead Man's Hand, which is kind of a weird one. So for me, I've seen all of this, every show before. But this is one of those weird out of order ones where it's the Royal Flush Gang. And Terry says, like, have you met these guys before? And Bruce is like, yep, I have. We never saw them in the animated series, ever.
No,
So they made the animated series, then they made Batman Beyond, and then they made Justice League. They are in Justice League, which takes place before this. And so it's a little bit out of order. But another kind of surprising cameo where the King is played by George Lazenby. You know who that is? Nobody knows who that is. I feel really sad, but it is what it is. He is the shortest run for James Bond. He played James Bond on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is in between Sean Connery. Like, Sean Connery had retired, George did a movie, and then Sean Connery came back. Which, in this episode, he has the line of, we have all the time in the world, which is the theme song from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So it's actually a James Bond little reference. But yeah, it's short, sweet. Again, like, I felt like there was a thing between Terry and Ink last review. Right. And then, sure enough, Terry and Ace. I'm like, oh, like, you're just going to sleep with every villain. So what did you think of the Royal Flush Gang?
This one I didn't really care for. Okay. I mean, it was nice that Terry and Ace became good friends and stuff, but when her mother put a stop to it, and then when the final scene when they just came back, as Terry was in the apartment and he saw them all come back, and something happened, and he went and he saved her. She got pushed, and so she was falling, and so he went out.
Well, that's because the King was getting captured, and King's like, save me! And Terry is just like, just go. And she went to save the King, and they shot, like, her little hover thing, and she fell.
Right. And he went and saved her.
Yeah, which, again, a little bit of a spoiler. Like, we're almost done with season 1, but a lot of these characters are just setting up for future episodes. So we'll see the Royal Flush Gang again. But, okay. So, I mean, we got Mr. Freeze, we got the Heroes, we got Shriek, and we got the Royal Flush Gang.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling for part 2 of Batman Beyond? It's a very different Batman. It's very different than anything we've watched. So
I'm up for it.
You still liking it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I mean, some people love it. Some people are like, "This is great." Like it's the feeling of Batman, but it's different. And some people are like, "No, this is weird, and I don't like it." So
yeah, because growing up with Burt Ward and
Adam West,
and you see Bruce Wayne like in the one where he was in the hospital.
Oh yeah.
That, and he's hearing voices.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to imagine Batman that old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sad.
But, yeah.
There are some people that, I mean, this series was like 1999, so this series is 20 years old, and there are people who are like, they want a live action Batman Beyond movie, and they're like, Michael Keaton at this point is roughly kind of like the Bruce Wayne age,
right.
and they're like, we need, like, let's bring in, like, I mean, Adam West is unfortunately no longer with us, but they're like, let's get Adam West or somebody. Let's see this old Batman.
Right.
But okay. Any closing thoughts?
No.
Nope.
Go watch some more.
Let's do it. Okay. So for those who have seen it, go ahead, let us know. We saw Mr. Freeze in this one. Who do you want to see return? I think the next episode we see somebody from classic Batman. I think. I'm not sure. So, for those who have seen it, what did you think of Mr. Freeze? What did you think of the Fantastic Four ripoff, the Terrific Trio? What did you think of Shriek? And what did you think of the Royal Flush Gang? By the time the series is over, every time I binge this series, every couple of years I binge it, like, you're going to start picking up, like, you're going to start saying shui or, like, all sorts of, like, whatever words they say. It's great. So, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. We'll see you guys next time for part 3.